Right. Hello, everyone. I'm Pranshu, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Uh, I suppose we should get started now. It's already a couple of minutes past 9 here in India. So I hope you're all well and keeping safe. I'll quickly introduce WalkingTree for anyone joining us for the very first time. WalkingTree is a technology-focused company with a core focus on designing and building cross-platform web and mobile applications, perform system integrations, and enable digital transformation. We also specialize in data integration, data analytics, migration from legacy to modern systems, cloud migrations, and of course, perform UX design. Apart from end-to-end application development, we also provide custom solutions to enterprises for web and mobile and very specific services within the software development lifecycle, microservices, DevOps, and cloud. Our flexible staff augmentation services provide clients with on-demand skills resources to meet organizational and business objectives. That was about us. On to our speakers of the day. Fani and Arun's association with WalkingTree is as old as the organization itself, actually, and their friendship goes back even longer. Both have had over a decade of experience on working with Ext JS, especially, along with other major frameworks like Angular, React, Node.js, and Flutter. And I hope you all have come to this session with a lot of questions because Fani and Arun are just the ones you need to answer all of the questions that you have related to ExtJS or any of these frameworks for that matter. You can of course leave them in the Q&A box and we'll try to cover as many as time allows today. Over to you, Fani. How are you doing?
Hi, Pranchu. Good evening. I'm doing good. Uh, Thank you all for joining the session, and let's start the session today. Can you please move on to agenda slide, Pranchu? So, yeah. So, as part of today's session, we'll cover this 10 points in the overall session. First, we'll try to understand the JavaScript frameworks history and overview, basically how JavaScript framework has evolved, and we'll later then we'll try to understand the Sencha capabilities and our journey, that is WalkingTree, and our journey with Sencha, what we have done, what we have achieved with Sencha, over the last 12 years. And one after that, we'll also try to understand why customers are moving away from Sencha, like customers meaning the enterprise applications which have been already developed and maintained from since a decade, been trying to move away from Sencha. We'll try to understand the reasons for that, and we'll try to later we'll try to understand the about what is actually a migration, and how do we plan, how should we plan your migration if you are if anyone is planning to migrate from Sencha. Once we understand how should we plan, then Arun will take us through understanding the customer goals and purpose behind this any migration, and we also learn about the success criteria about when we do a migration, right? And the things to be considered during the execution of this migration exercises. And we'll also help discuss about the ninth item. We'll also discuss about the modernization opportunities that we can uh, use in our development environment to modernize our overall complete development exercise to gain more productivity and performance in terms of application as well as the efforts. And last, will help you understand the lessons that we have learned during such migration exercises, where we have executed, as WalkingTree, we have executed a lot of migration activities uh, from within Sencha and across the Sencha, like from Sencha to different frameworks and different frameworks to Sencha and vice versa as well. So these are all overall 10 points that we're going to discuss today. And as I already told, like the first 5 points I'll be covering, and later 6 items from the understanding the customer goals and purpose of migration, Arun will be taking over. Now, to start with the first agenda point, the JavaScript frameworks and the history overview of the JavaScript frameworks. Moving on to the next slide. So as we can see the timeline of this JavaScript frameworks here, before 1999, I mean, late 1999s is where the JavaScript has evolved more. I mean, the usage of JavaScript has improved a lot, where the era of static web pages have gone away, and enterprises started building the dynamic web application, dynamic web pages to solve the business needs. That's where the JavaScript started. The frameworks around JavaScript started building to solve the many problems. Like as we see, like 1999 is where ECMA 3 a version got involved, where Microsoft was managing it. Before ECMA 3, Netscape was the initial company who started specifying or putting out the specifications for JavaScript. And after 1999, a lot of frameworks are evolved, but specifically if we talk about around 2005, jQuery came into picture with helping to build the common widgets, the UI representation for a lot of widgets in JavaScript. That's where the jQuery framework came in, and it had a lot of not problems, but it has a lot of gaps, like no way to maintain the code or the manage the data, like making API calls and etc. So where around 2007 ExtJS came into existence, or became more popular around with the ExtJS 2.x version, where ExtJS come up with very first time came up with overall framework with an extensive data package, a lot of widgets, in pre-built widgets, and the layouting and etc. That's where the almost all the enterprises, I mean, more than uh, more than 50%, I would say, I mean, according to me, the enterprises started building their web applications with ExtJS. And again, but it has its own problems, like the performance, load time performance, or the footprint of the application and etc. has become more. Solving that problem around 2009, 2008, 2009, Angular JS came bought in by Google developer community, where it is lightweight compared to ExtJS, but there are no, again, solving that problem, but there is no inbuilt or pre-built components and etc. Later, solving this problem, the data package problems and all, solving this problem, the open source libraries like frameworks or libraries like Knockout, Backbone JS, Amber, Meteor became popular. But after this, solving these problems, performance and learning curve was the more maintenance of the application was again the problem, where Facebook came up with a framework called React around 2013, which solved the problem of rendering, managing DOM, manipulating DOM, and etc., which became very much sophisticated with the help of React, with where React uses this virtual DOM concept. And later on that, the Angular 2, Google thought solving all the problems like the maintainability or the frameworks, the ecosystem around AngularJS was not so proper. So Google came up with an Angular instead of AngularJS, came up with Angular around 2016, putting the complete ecosystem around Angular with all the capability of testing, building the application using Webpack and etc. So this is how the evolution or the history of the JavaScript frameworks came into picture. Now Angular 2 is the latest. Angular 2 is the latest, which is started even improving by itself from 2016, from Angular version 2 to now the current version of Angular is around 14. From the journey of Angular 2 to Angular 14, the Google community or the Angular community has solved a lot of problems in terms of performance, in terms of security, in terms of providing the different capabilities, uh, testability, testing libraries, and etc. Along with Angular, ExtJS started, even though it started its journey around 2007, it started evolving, supporting multiple, solving multiple problems and improving day by day. Now the current version of ExtJS is around 7.x, where it supports again the same old 140 plus pre-built component library and supporting the modern, I mean, mobile devices support and etc. And Facebook, so React of Facebook has even been improving day by day in terms of performance. Now the current version of ExtJS is going with ECMA specifications of 2015, and the browsers, below browsers, if you see, uh, like they started from Firefox, Internet Explorer, and then around 2009 Google came up with a browser, Chrome browser. And currently, if we talk about the leading browsers in the industry, or more widely used browsers, are Chrome with Jaco engine, the same Jaco engine being used, Chrome engine being used in IE as well, Internet Explorer 11 or Edge being called as. So this is all about the history of the JavaScript frameworks. Now moving on to the second concept, the Sencha capabilities. Let's try to understand the capabilities of Sencha before even talking about why people are moving away from Sencha. As I already talked about, Sencha has a lot of capabilities, and it's widely used a framework to build the enterprise applications at some point, maybe before or till 2016-17 times. So if we look at the major capabilities or the highlights of the Sencha capabilities, that it has around 140 plus pre-built components, which suits or supports most of the capabilities that any enterprise application would expect. And the extensive data package to manage the data, maintain the data within the browser, and as well as fetching and pushing the data to the server. And the again another flexibility or the capability is the flexible layout manager, which allows to render the different kind of components and different positions in the browser area, that is widget window browser area. And then along with this capabilities, Sencha has come up with its own tools to complete its total ecosystem. Like Sencha test is one of the tools of Sencha, which helps to write a comprehensive test cases around the applications built with ExtJS with ease compared to using any Java, Jasmine or any other framework. It's basically a wrapper test framework. And then it has also come up with the tools like Sencha Architect, which helps to build the UI pages with a with a drag and drop capabilities, where almost with very less code, any developer can build the web pages or the screens. Stencils and themers are basically like to design the pages and as well as to style the pages with very ease. Instead of writing a single uh, styling the each and every single element, the common components would be, with the help of themer, Sencha themer, we'll be able to style the components and pages very easily. And last but not least, the Sencha CMD is a comprehensive tool which helps to uh, package ExtJS libraries or build the applications, and mostly try to compile the code and almost deploy the code with as much as possible less footprint of the overall application. So these are all the overall capabilities of Sencha, which drive most of the enterprise applications to use Sencha as a framework for their enterprise applications. Now let's try to understand why. At some point, as we discussed, at some point Sencha was the prominent framework to develop enterprise applications, but again, people started moving away from Sencha. Um, Sorry, even before that, sorry, I missed one more slide. Sorry for that. Our journey, if we understand our journey with Sencha, that is WalkingTree's journey with Sencha, we had around 14 plus years of experience with working with Sencha framework, that is ExtJS, call it ExtJS 2.x or Sencha Touch at some point, ExtJS 5 with modern toolkit, 6 and 7, the current versions. As an organization, we have worked with almost all the versions from 3.x to 7.x versions, and we have provided solutions, built solutions for different enterprises across domains. And we were select partners for Sencha, where we had demonstrated our skills or capabilities with ExtJS framework, where we became a select partner for some time. And apart from this, we again in this 14 years of journey, we have built 50 plus enterprise applications with Sencha framework. I mean, enterprise UI applications, let me say, UI applications for around 50 plus enterprises and 20 plus mobile applications, enterprise mobile applications using. We started mobile applications with actually when Sencha Touch was in place with more of mobile capabilities, rendering the same widgets, or it has come up with the different widgets to render the components in mobile. Later, at some point, Sencha Touch got merged into ExtJS, calling it as a modern toolkit, and existing browser-based ExtJS framework, calling it as a classic toolkit within the same ExtJS framework. And along with this, when we are building this 50 web applications and 20 plus mobile applications, we have come up with 100 plus custom components which can be reused across this applications. We have this library in our repos where we have built almost 100 plus reusable custom components in Sencha which were not available in uh, the Sencha framework or ExtJS framework. This is our journey with ExtJS or Sencha over these 14 years. Now, if we move on to the next slide, why customers are moving away from ExtJS, where we could find the top 6 reasons for why anybody would try to move away from Sencha. One is a high learning curve. As we already know, like ExtJS is altogether, I mean, it's an OOPS-based framework where we have to define classes and etc. But the learning curve compared to any other framework that exists today is more or high compared to any other framework as of exists in the market today. That is one of the reason where finding the right resources or training people or training new developers on the ExtJS framework became a bottleneck. That's one of the major one reason why people are trying to move away from Sencha. And app loading time and performance is another factor or another important factor why anybody would like to move away from Sencha, because Sencha has addressed this problem in many ways, like allowing packages and lazy loading and etc. But still, the overall initial package size or initial footprint of the application without this package is also is a little bit heavy compared to any other framework like Angular or React, where the initial application load time is high compared to any other application. And bundle size, an obvious reason, where the simple ExtJS bundle size itself is heavy compared to any other framework, which in turn leads to the load time of the application. And another reason was licensed platforms. Of course, it is a license from almost day one, but license cost being increasing day by day. Uh, a few years or few months before the IDER acquisition of Sencha, and after acquisition, the costs are being increased day by day, which became almost unbearable or uh, more costly to even the bigger enterprise applications. That's one of the major reason why even bigger enterprise applications are trying to move away from Sencha. High dev cycle for any custom functionality into the existing component is also one of the reason. Like, let's say out of 140 components, we have a component which suits our, I mean, our business need almost 70%, but 30% if you have to customize, that customization cycle is a little bit longer, meaning you have to understand the complete life cycle of a component and test it thoroughly, otherwise manage the layouts properly. And the basic core libraries of ExtJS, core component libraries of ExtJS should be used effectively. Otherwise, this custom components will becoming a bottleneck in the performance of the application. That was also one of the reason. And given all this, the high learning curve and the licensing cost, finding a skilled resource I mean, even though we find a skilled resource in ExtJS, but the cost of these resources is uh, huge, where in turn it became finding a cost-effective resources for ExtJS became a bottleneck or difficult to maintain the ExtJS application. I mean, not about developing, but even existing application maintenance of the application has become more costly when compared to any other frameworks. So majorly, these are all the 6 reasons that we could find out why any customer would try to move away from ExtJS. Moving on to next slide. Now let's try to understand what is migration. Basically, what are the steps that we should steps or the things that we should consider when we are migrating. Basically, when we are migrating here, we could figure out the 7 steps. One is first analyze the previous system that we are trying to migrate. I mean, not just Sencha, but any UI application, let's say, or for that matter, any application. First, we have to thoroughly analyze the existing system, understand the functionality, understand the bugs in the system, and understand the business flow of the system. And then choose the best technology. Once you understand everything, choose the best technology which suits or which can solve the same problem with even at least more effectively or at least equal to what Sencha does today. That becomes a major second step. And then understanding the business logic, migration of a business logic, and addition of new features or new business logic to the framework is something to be considered before we do any migration. And fourth point becomes obviously a performance optimization. Again, as I said, like the performance in terms of application performance and as well as the development productivity performance is also should be considered when we think about a migration. Then system testing, the framework that we choose or the plan that we have, we should consider give a good amount of space to system testing as well, where the testing becomes a more important part. And then about a deployment, I mean, any UI framework deployment should not be a major thing because even deploying it in a static web server should also do the job. But anyways, as the overall plan, we should consider about where we are going to deploy, how it is going to serve, and how it is able to the UI deployed, UI code is communicating with the server, and etc. And finally, about the maintenance, the business domain and the technology that you choose, and how are you based on this, all these factors, how you are going to maintain the application for longer period. That should also be considered when you start planning for your migration. So this is all about migration. Let's understand how we can plan for a migration. Moving on to the next slide. So how to plan your migration? Migration of an existing application running in production. Basically, we thought of it can be done in two ways. One is Big Bang approach, and other is a coexistence phase. Big Bang approach is basically nothing but you have an Ext JS application which is already running in production. You understand the system, you follow all the things, you consider all the 7 things, and start building an application from scratch in the technology that you have chosen, and build it throughout, test it thoroughly, and then deploy the application or replace the current application that is running in production, replace it with the new application that you have built with a new frame. As we know that any approach or anything that we consider it has a pros and cons. So trying to understand the pros and cons of a Big Bang approach is you can bring a complete new look and feel of your application to the customer at a time in single stretch, and functional behavior or restructuring of the functionalities can be done uh, in single stretch. Maintaining existing application timelines will be less because you'll be maintaining only that. You'll not be enhancing it because, as you know, you're already developing an existing application. And single system will be used at once. It will not be chaos like you'll have the two system, existing system running already and the new system running. So migrating people from users from existing system to new system, maintaining two of them at together at once. All this chaos will not be there. And as this will take enough time to take it to the live, so you will get a focused time to train your customers to use a new application in terms of the look and feel, in terms of the functional behavior that is going to change. Now, looking at the long cons of this, of course, as you're building it from scratch, there'll be a longer period to take this application to the live, which means in terms of business, like realization of ROI will be less, slower compared to other approach. And learning involved for end users if UI is improved from previous system. If we have chosen to improve the UI, then all of a sudden user would be seeing a new system if the training is not focused properly. So these are the pros and cons of the Big Bang approach. Looking into the second approach is phased coexistence. In the phased coexistence approach is we migrate the application step by step. Let's assume Your Ext JS application is existing in production today, which has 10 screens or 10 different functionalities, assuming 10 different functionalities. Now you start migrating a functionality or a module by module in your application with the other framework that you have chosen as an alternate. Uh, you start building, start replacing one module, let's say orders module, uh, start building an orders module in different framework and uh, replace this orders module of ExtJS with the other frame new application or new module that you have built with other framework in the existing application. So that what happens, the nine modules, other nine modules still exist in ExtJS. User will not feel anything new. He or she will feel only new look and feel or new behavior only when he or she is using that module which you have replaced. Now, how to achieve this? Now, with the HTML5, the concepts of web element and web components has improved a lot. Where and the micro front end is a recent frameworks pattern that we have got, which using this we should be able to incorporate or inject the new module as part of the existing ExtJS application with ease. But this one also has got its own pros and cons. Like new pros are like, as I said again, a new look and feel. Behavioral changes can be brought in phase wise, as which means the use by the time you complete all the 10 modules, replace the existing system, user will slowly get used to the new application or the new look and feel and the new behavior of the application, and easier for end users to adjust to the new system. That's what we discussed. And incremental and comprehensive implementation and onboarding, again the same thing. Users will see incrementally things moving, so you will get better I mean, end user will get more time to give a comprehensive feedback as well. But looking at the cons, the timelines will be little more compared to Big Bang approach, because both systems you have to maintain, and whatever we are building, we have to make sure that this new module is integrating with or communicating with the rest of the other 9 modules as it was already doing in ExtJS. And both of them existing in new systems you have to maintain at the same time, which may be slightly costly to maintain both the systems. I mean, even the one module or two modules in new framework, you have to maintain this one as well as existing ExtJS application. And at some way, and another con that we can see is at some points, I don't have an exact vision, but at some points, the coexistence of these two frameworks, the new framework module and the existing ExtJS application, will become a little tricky, but that can be solved in the latest with the latest HTML5 technologies in any way. But overall, these are the pros and cons of phased coexistence as well. So very high level, again, if you repeat, there are two approaches that we can follow to migrate. One is a Big Bang approach, where you build the complete application with a new technology altogether till the end. You do a solution test, UAT, and etc. Uh, rigorously test it, and once approved, then replace the existing system with a new system. And other is phased coexistence. Divide the application into functional modules. Start replacing one module by one by one module with the new framework, and given at the end, like when you replace all the 10 modules, your existing system would be phased out, and the complete application will be the new framework. That's all about how to plan your migration. From here, the Arun Kumar would take it forward. Arun, please take it from here.
Yeah. Hello all. Good evening. Um, First of all, thank you very much, Fanny, for your insight on Sincha and migrations and WalkingTree's capabilities and how we deliver the things on Sincha. How we have helped Sincha to achieve a market in India. Um, and with this concluded, as Fanny concluded. Customers are willing to move away from Sencha to modern era apps, like Angular, React, Vue, like that. So the main goals or expectations or purpose why customer is moving, that we are going to discuss now. Okay, so when it comes to the any app, what customer expect is its performance is improved as per the new standards, and that according to the new business goals, it needs to be scaled, and it needs to be modernized. So the threats or the problems that the new technologies offers, we can incorporate into the system. And another thing is responsiveness. Means he wants to scale his application from desktop to mobile. So with existing code, we want to actually support mobile browsers also. So that is one kind of the goal that we customers will have. And another thing is easy to maintain. Any functionality or any libraries that we use in the system, it needs to be easily plug and play. Okay. So and another thing is the system testing and the code coverage, which ensure that the system is stable. So these are the 6 things mainly we concentrate while migrating from one Sencha Ext to any modern applications, any modern technologies. So when it comes to the performance, we have mainly 2 things from the UA perspective, how the pages or components or widgets are loading, how fast it is loading, how much easy to actually adopt to those new components. Users, how users are adapting to the new way of doing the things. Those things we need to consider as part of the performance. Means how quickly the app is loading, how much data it is able to hold and present, and the facilities that we are providing as part of that performance. Okay. So another thing is business use cases, where we will list out all the business use cases, existing as well as new, and we will create the timelines around that. And when it comes to the modernization, we will consider all the new facilities, new things that our new technology is offering, and how we can improve the existing system to perform better. And as we discussed, responsiveness is one thing that we need to consider, where the same code can be opened in a mobile browser, and seamlessly users can perform their tasks or do their daily work. Okay, and another thing is easy to maintain. Whatever the libraries that we are using, or third-party libraries, it can be, or it can be same technology related libraries. From the performance perspective, it is good or not, and it can be plug and play kind of thing or not, that we need to consider. And we need to consider the system testing can be automated easily, and test suites can be created while development or not, and the code that we are covering using those test suites, unit tests basically, are up to the mark, industry standards. So these are the actually main goals we take from the customer, means from the customer expectations, and move forward with the migration. So so after taking those considerations, whatever the customer goals, okay, how we can ensure that success of this migration. So to say that we are successful with the migration, so the first thing we need to consider is the performance. Performance should be improved, from the current system, and usability of the app should be improved. Means users should be able to traverse from one screen to other screen easily and do their day-to-day work properly with a 100% functionally approved things. And it needs to support the responsiveness, means from desktop to mobile browsers, it is able to scale up to mark. Okay, and the complete test suite is ready or not, and it is executed perfectly with 100% functional blocks. Means whatever the functionality the existing system is offering, that all those functional blocks needs to be executed perfectly with this test suites. And 80% code coverage, that is minimum industry expectations. In WalkingTree, we have achieved 90% also. And another thing is 100% completion of functional blocks, as we discussed. The functionality of the existing system needs to be 100% covered. So these are the things we consider to say a system migration is successful or not. The next thing is to consider while executing this migration process. Okay, try to follow the BDD approach, behavior-driven designs we use. Basically, in BDD, we have a stakeholder or a product owner, we can say. He actually gather the requirements from the customer or the users. Okay, and he discussed these requirements with our dev team as well as testing team and formalize the things, and he will create a document out of those requirements and present with all the edge cases as well as interaction between the each functional blocks. So we will consider this document as a means for that development cycle as well as testing cycle. And according to that, we create the plans on sprint-wise plans on what are the things we need to deliver on with respect to sprints. Okay. And while development, dev team will create LLDs, HLDs, and solution approaches from those requirements, and they will be reviewed from the customer itself, and we will create the development cycle from there. And from the testing perspective, testing team also will consider these requirements, these document as a means, and they will create their test suites around that and test scripts, so automation can be happen at the same time. Okay. And the next step is regular A and B testing. So as we discussed earlier, we in the dev cycle we create the solution approaches for each and every functional blocks, and for each functional block delivery, we will create unit test cases around that. And once all the unit test cases and code coverages are achieved, then we will give it to the testing team. Testing team will verify that from the look and feel wise as well as functional wise, and they will execute their test suites and test scripts. So we will identify most of the, I can say 95 to 99% issues here itself, and we can solve those things. And third point is reusability, where we will look into the existing system, and we will identify the parts of the system where we can reuse and make that as a library or a standalone micro front-end app. So those libraries can be maintained in the registry and reusable across our development cycle. So this is one thing we consider while migrating, and performance and responsiveness. These are the main things. Another aspects that we consider, like performance means from the app loading side, as well as the API request response side also. Means if there is any API a server call basically is taking more time, than how to break it down into multiple small things and achieve the same result within the lesser time. And from the component perspective, if component is taking more time to load, how to optimize that component and break it into different small components to perform better. All those things we will do at this step. And at the same time, we will consider the responsiveness by considering the theming process, that themes that we are going to use in the application are actually supporting both desktop as well as mobile browsers. If any components we need to use, especially for the mobile development, that we will consider at the dev cycle itself. Means so from the beginning itself, we are aware that, so for a web desktop browser, how look and feel will be there, and for a mobile browser, how look and feel will be there. And last one is the bugs in the existing system that we need to consider. This is again based on the customer requirements. If we need to consider those bugs, how we can solve those bugs with a new technology that we are choosing. If we need to improve or create a new component to solve those bugs, we can create, or if with the existing libraries or existing framework, if we can solve those things, we will pick up those from the existing ones. With this, these are the things we consider for while executing the migration. Okay. Next thing is the lessons we learn as part of this migration process. Okay. From the lessons we learn, okay, no unknowns and unknown knowns. Like we need to, while requirement gathering itself, we need to consider those edge cases also, like going through that entire system end to end. To see all the corner cases, all functional functional blocks and interactions between them. By considering all those things, we need to factor those things, so we will not miss those things in the development cycle. Okay. The second one is, as we discussed earlier, we need to go through that each and every corner case. So those can be added into the factored into the timeline that we have given to the customer. Okay. And bugs in the existing system, those are also we need to consider. If there is any bug in the existing system, those needs to be communicated properly and added into the timeline. So while development or delivery, we will not have any hiccups. Okay. And fourth point is proper planning the bugs, how we and when we are going to deliver those bugs. And finding a fifth point as finding the right libraries within the new technology that we have chosen, and any third-party libraries that we can use to solve the existing issues. But while choosing the third-party open source libraries, we need to make sure that it is not a bottleneck for the further development. Like it should not be any security issue, or it should not have any performance issues, like those things. Okay. Themes. themes is another thing that we need to consider from the beginning of the development cycle, is like how it is visible in multiple browsers. Each component that we create, how it is visible in each browser and across multiple platforms, from the desktop browser to the mobile browsers. And the test suites covers 100% functionality or not. This is the main important thing. So whatever the test suites that we create, it needs to have 100% functional cases and interaction cases, like from one functional block to another functional block. What are the interactions? What are the final results? And everything needs to be created as a test suite, and it needs to be 100% executed. Okay. And another thing is the requirements are actually divided into multiple high-level designs, low-level designs, solution approaches. So we will have a complete idea on what are the things we are developing as well as delivering. And code coverage needs to be 80% minimum. So we can ensure whatever we are delivering is well tested, and all the logics, functional logics are in place. Deriving the reusable code means identifying the reusable code and creating libraries out of it, or standalone apps from those code, and use it as a repository libraries to improve the performance of the app. So these are the things we actually, while migrating from Sencha to other apps like Angular, React, Vue, these are the things we identified and we follow to make sure that the migration is successful. Okay. So the next thing is modernizing the app. So while modernization, the main thing that we consider is the UX, and it needs to be followed the CI/CD and performance of the app, and automation, test automations are there, and it is following we follow the agile methodologies, and we provide the security at a max level with the new things to consider from the industry. So when it comes to the UX, the main thing that we consider from the UX perspective is interaction designs, where we will see the goal-driven design is there, and user expectations are met or not, and utilities are going to be used to create that interaction design, and significance of each and every action that we are doing, and usability from the user's perspective, how easily they can use. Okay. Another thing is the prototype that we create, our wireframes, we can say, how the interaction between screens are happening, and how the use cases are covered to follow a flow, workflow. So another thing is information architecture, where three things are main. One is the context, content, and users. Okay, what is the context that and what is the content basically, and in which context, and we use that content to actually interact between the screens, and what type of users you are going to use these screens. And user research is another point, where we will identify the types of users, and roles, role of the user that they are using this system, and their pain points, and we consider their pain points, and we improve the usability of the app, And after user research, the next thing is scenarios. We identify the scenarios. According to that, the prototypes will be created and wireframes are created. So this is the main thing that we do for modernization of the app with the new modern facilities or that the new app is new technologies offering that we will consider as part of the UX. Another one is the CI/CD, where we will support the DevOps team to continuously integrate and continuously develop and deploy. So in this, we will consider the first coding. After that, by using the code management tools and everything. Once the coding is done with the coding reviews and everything, the next thing is the testing part, where we will automate the testing suits and everything. And the next thing is release management, where we will maintain the versions of the code that can be released to the users according to the test results that we identify in the automation testing. And once the at the release management, it is approved, that particular release is approved, how we can automate the deployment process, where particular approved version of the code can be integrated into deployed into the production systems. And we will monitor the system for the security or load balancing, and we will according to that we will take the decisions on overriding or going with the plan. So as part of CE/CD, we are going to consider all those things. Basically, DevOps will come in place of this one. And as part of modernization, another thing is code quality and coverage that we will ensure using the Sonar Cubes and Jenkins and everything. Where in Jenkins we will execute the test suits, and Sonar Cube we will install in the dev systems to identify the issues or code quality at the development cycle only, and we will solve those things at the development cycle. And we will write the unit tests to make sure that code quality is good with 80% code coverage. And next thing is the productivity and responsiveness. Okay, we will ensure the productivity of the app by identifying the libraries, third-party libraries, or creating library, or if any code is reusable, that can be created as a library and used in multiple locations. So it can be reusable and it is well-tested code. And identifying the bugs at the dev cycle only and resolving them quickly. So by using Sonar Cube and installing into the dev systems, we identify the coding level issues at the development stage only. And by following the test suits and test cases, we will ensure that whatever the code that we are delivering, which is reviewed, properly reviewed and well tested. And focusing on your application, basically we focus on what are the functional blocks and how we are delivering them by creating unit test cases at the time of component creation itself, and testing properly, and making sure that 80% code coverage is there. So by considering all these things, we can make sure that application is stable when it's going to the production environment. And from security wise, it is the components that we created are secured, and the versions that we are maintaining are giving proper stats, so we can cut down the costs at the hosting side. Okay, CI/CD side. So these are the things from performance side we will consider. And when it comes to the other agile methodology, it is basically the project planning where uh, we will divide the functional blocks and interact according to its interactions into separate sprints, and we will assign the story points, and we will track all the progress from the agile perspective, and we will uh, assign the resource allocations according to the story points, and we will deliver according to the carbon planned test suits. And finally, once the test suits are executed properly, we will deliver to the production systems. Okay, these are the things we consider for any modernization of the app. So with this, I'm concluding my.
Thank you, Arun, and thank you, Funny. We do have a few questions for you. I'll just read them out for you. The first we have from Marcus. Would you say Ext JS isn't exactly catching up with the likes of Flutter, React JS?
Hey Marcus, the question I didn't get it completely, but if it is about the capabilities that Flutter and React, or the features that Flutter and React are promising, if your question is like, is ExtJS is not trying to catch them up? The answer would be yes, it is trying to, but given the its own cons or drawbacks that ExtJS has, it will not be able to at least be 100% par with Flutter and React. And on top of all this, like given the open source, I mean, Flutter and React are open source, and even though this the same capabilities or EXE is trying to be same as Flutter and React, this commercial license is something pulling it back in the race of Flutter and React. Hope that answers your question.
And we have one more from Shilpi. Is total migration the best strategy?
Hey Shilpi, good question. Total strategy. If I understand your question completely, you're saying like, uh, uh, I can understand two questions out of it. Let me answer both of them. If your question is about, is this Big Bang approach correct? Uh, Answer to that question is, again, it depends on the business users. I mean, how they want to take it. Like, it depends on the new features that you're bringing in to the application, and the value that the actual business is looking at on this overall migration activity. Depends on that. And if your question is like, in the phased coexistence, what if I just migrate out of 10 modules, maybe 5 modules, and still contain rest of 5 in ExtJS as is? Um, if the question is that, then my answer would be, uh, anyone would not like to have or to maintain two different things at same time, considering the cost or considering the effort that we are putting in to maintain the application, right? When you start migrating it, um, if not at a time, but converting the whole, migrating the whole application into single technology would give you a better productivity in terms of productivity and support as well, in terms of maintaining maintenance of the application, in terms of cost, in terms of resource maintenance, and etc. as well. Uh, I hope I've considered two questions from yours and try to answer them. I hope it helps.
All right, we have just one more from Pramod. Hi, can you say something about handling the backend in migration, like Spring Boot application APIs?
Hey Pramod, Spring Boot. Anyways, when you're talking about Spring Boot, they're RESTful APIs. So the current technologies in the current world, the technologies, whatever you take, like ExtJS, React, Angular, any Vue or any framework, uh, got their own good support for this REST APIs consumption. So backend would not uh, have any impact in the migration of UI apart from, let's say, let me take, I not exclude that completely, but just to take a case, like example, if you built your Spring Boot APIs exclusively for ExtJS, then your Angular or React, whatever the technology that you choose, the components that you're building with those APIs, you might have to tweak them a bit, especially in case of one example that I could recollect very quickly is about stores. Like the when you integrate an API, when you build an API for an ExtJS store or a grid, the pagination, the properties that you include in the response of your APIs, like the total records, the page number, and these values, right? These are not exactly same used in React or Angular. Maybe you have to tweak a bit of your API or your Angular or React or any other framework for that matter. Apart from that, then that is a very less effort compared to anything else. In high level, I would say Spring doesn't have any backend doesn't have any impact on the UI migration, apart from the small changes that you might have to make.
Right. One last question again from Pramod, which is the preferred JS framework, React or Angular, or are there criteria in deciding these? How about Vue.js?
A very good question, and at the same time, which is something we cannot take a. I mean, which I can anyone cannot give an answer in a single shot. But just to answer your question, give an insight to just to give an insight on this question for you is like a Vue is obviously it came as a solution for the problems that exist in Angular as well as React, and it uses both the core idea of both the frameworks, and but still it is not as popular as Angular or React. That's one about Vue. And if the question and next the question is about whether React is good or Angular is good for your application, it depends on the type of the application and the kind of resources that you have and the design of your application. All these three factors would uh, help you decide which framework you should use, either Angular or React, if you consider open source framework to migrate your application
Right.
based on
Thanks
your
for that.
business application use cases. Basically, the usage of your application and the business cases of your application would decide. Once we understand those factors, then we can help you understand which framework would be the better one. First, we have to, anyways, in any case, you have to first draw a chart, I mean, comparison chart between the frameworks that you want to choose to migrate and compare with the business use cases or the your overall application requirements, basically. Hope that helps.
All right. So that's all that we have for today. Thank you once again, Funny and Arun. And I hope to see all of you back again with us for our next session. So until then, thank you all.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot for joining this session. Hope this helps.